Alright, here's a presentation I made regarding the hardest event in Dokkan battle history. And I made it because I keep seeing people crying about the Festival of Battles, and I'm not gonna troll you. This event is garbage. In a way, you're supposed to spend 4 hours on a fucking event. Whatever, bro. Compared to this event, it was Coco Melon. And so let me give you some context, right? It was a Dokkan Battle 7th year anniversary, and you know, all anniversary they released a hard event. Like during the 6th anniversary, they released the God event, and then yeah, before they released like the Goku lineage and stuff. You know what I mean, right? So it was the 7th year. The Red Zone event was newly introduced, so this was the first time we got Red Zone events to show the power of the 7-year units. And the new 7-year units introduced power creep through introducing 200% leader skills. And I would say they're the first characters to have more than one defensive gimmick, because you know, you either have dodge, damage reduction, or guard. These guys had two. For example, Gogeta had guard and damage reduction. I don't care if it was for one turn, he still had guard. Also, we talking about the JP side, because if you didn't know, before the game wasn't synchronized, so JP got stuff before Global, and then when Global got this, we got like Ginyu, and then Ginyu was kind of really good against Broly. And I remember I was coming back from America, and then that's when the event dropped, and it took me 2 tries, but I beat him with Ginyu Force. So definitely easier for global players because they had more options, but this event was pure terrorism for JP, bruh. Okay, so let's continue with the context. So characters kits are important because I would say that before January 2022, that's when the characters released, by the way. I'm talking about Super Saiyan 4, Goku, and the Gods. I would say most Dokkan kits were similar defensive wise because a lot of characters were slot 2 or 3 that started around 200k defense and just got defense on Super. And they had like one gimmick such as like dodge, or they stacked defense. I would say that at this time damage reduction and guard were less common. And as I said before, you need 2 out of the 3 defensive gimmicks to be good, which I would argue the year 7 introduced. And this is why people would argue that the Dokkan 7th year introduced one of the largest power creep metas comparable to STR Gogeta, and you'll see why later. No troll. This picture is really important. This picture depicts how it felt playing against Broly at this time, bro. Okay, so now let's talk about Red Zone Broly. So Red Zone Broly was a large step into power creep, especially event power creep, because 95% of the characters in the game were rendered useless against his boss, and this is because Broly had dodge cancel in all phases and he did AoEs, and we all know AoEs are cringe. So even if this event seemed difficult, okay, it was difficult, he could also double super in the final stage because he had a 5 attack cooldown and his supers did 1.2 mil. Kind of crazy. And you know, this is a recipe of disaster because, as I said before, a lot of characters were slot 2 and 3 and they just got defense on super, and against AoEs, bro, you getting fried. And because of the dodge cancelling, you couldn't bring characters like AGL, MUI Goku, or like unit stack kind of slow as well, and that was the issue. Even if that was the case, I would say one of the best strategies was still bringing stacking characters, because first of all, your choices were limited, and so you had to just stack slowly for the first 2 stages and pray that he didn't AoE on his first attack. And yeah, let's take a look at his stats, right? So I would say the hardest was definitely his 3rd phase. That's when he just wiped everybody out the field. And you know, if you got to 4th stage, you were sitting comfy, but damn, this guy was so fucking powerful, man. 5 turn attack cooldown is crazy. Okay, so with this in mind, it was so fudging hard. This event was so fudging hard that it was almost impossible to no item this event even with the new units. So it was very difficult to beat this with items and almost impossible to beat with no items. And that's because many prior characters stood no chance against Broly. So again, options were very limited. And this was likely the case because the new OP shining characters, the 4s and the Gods, they just released like a few weeks ago. So technically the only way you could beat this event if you had them. So W on their part, they know how to make money. they knew how to make money was to make more than half the game useless, and release some characters that can only beat the boss, right? And funnily enough, these characters were not invincible against Broly. And let's look at the image on the right. These are all the characters released in 2021, right? Realistically, who has a chance against them, right? Do not get brain rotted thinking that these characters are what their easy is. This is bare bone, no holes, no money, no easy A's. These guys are homeless right now. Okay, let's talk about the LR Gods and the LR Monkey. So the Gods were a dodge and stacking character. They technically had guard for one turn. And even if they were the best character in this event, because they had type advantage in the last stage, they could still get caught in the AoE phase because that was STR. So you have to get lucky with stacks because you could not dodge. And then for the monkeys, right, sadly enough, even though damage reduction is good against AoE, they still had true type disadvantage against AoE Broly, so they could get cooked as well. And also, at this time, super attack counters acted like a dodge, so if a boss had dodge cancel, you couldn't get super attack counter off, which really affected them against this boss. And let's just watch this clip. This clip sums up this event.
What's so funny? Alright, anyway, man.
I never heard Bandano laugh like that.
Okay, now hold on. There's a 0% chance at the end he's doing that, right?
Yeah, sure. You have a very low chance of getting hit.
Does he AoE super? Is that what that laugh is?
No.
That's the most unconvincing no I've heard in a while.
That's what he does, isn't it? He AoE supers.
No. Of course.
No, that's not. What?
Keep going, keep going.
I mean, if he AoE supers, I'm pretty sure we're dead. We're just dead.
You have no more research?
Surely, no. No, I haven't used an item yet. I'm at full health.
Alright, buddy, let's see what happens here then.
Okay.
Oh my!
Bro, that was against the biggest whale in the fudging world. My boy Truth has every unit rainbowed, link leveled. Fudge it. He goons 10 times a day for each character for the extra boost. And my boy got cooked. And that really sums it up. If the whales couldn't beat it, think about the majority of the player base, which is free to play, right? Okay. So the summary, the fact that 90% of characters were unusable against Front Zone Broly, and the new release characters could Oonga Boonga defeat the boss, and even still they could get caught. This made the hardest event in history, bro. And I'll only say that when the 5th year LRs got an ECA, which buffed both tags at the time. So I'm talking about the monkeys and the gods. I would say only then this event got easier, as now more options were starting to come out. But as a global player, I wish I got to experience the prime of this event, because I could not. And therefore, I would say that this is the hardest event in Dokkan Battle history, and I don't think we'll get an event this difficult ever again, bro. Definitely a mistake on their part. Whatever, if you missed this fun video, let's scrap one. Peace.